Cameroon government readjusts her fight-back strategy for the coronavirus as the number of cases approach the 200 mark. For more on this refurbished strategy, the Secretary General in the Ministry of Public Health, Sinata Kulashiro, is guest on the 7:30 News. Leaders of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, CEMAC, close up ranks to slow the pace of the coronavirus that is making dangerous inroads into the sub-region. The newly created National School of Local Administration, NASLA, now has its pioneer management team. Discover their faces and profiles in this edition. Those are top stories. Hello and thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News. I am Ben Menopufong. We open this newscast with a worrying observation. The steady climb in the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in Cameroon is becoming rather preoccupying, despite the panoply of measures that government and her partners are deploying to slow the spread of the killer pandemic in the country. Is it that the measures are hard to implement, or that Cameroonians are simply lukewarm and nonchalant about them? Constantine Baum has been wondering why some quarantined patients have been overstepping their bounds and points out that maybe there is need for the adoption of more restrictive and more cohesive measures to stem this rather uncivic behavior of potential perpetrators. Constantine.
In spite of calls even from the highest authority of the country, President Paul Biya, for Cameroonians to remain civil and very disciplined in the fight against COVID-19, some Cameroonians are still to wake up to the reality, even though numbers of infected persons keep rising every day. With Douala and Yaoundé the hotspot of the virus, most of the inhabitants still have a lukewarm and nonchalant attitude in observing the 13 prescriptions of government to combat COVID-19, to the extent that prostitutes are brought to persons quarantined in some hotels in Yaoundé.
We discovered that people put in quarantine were conniving with hotel agents to smuggle women into the hotel to sleep with them. We have arrested some of them, and all those hotels are being watched by the forces of law.
With about 50 prostitutes already in custody, repressive measures will be taken to fish out more prostitutes who can be spreading the virus to other clients. Law enforcement officers will visit prostitution spots in Vogada, Minifem, Ekunu, and those caught will be handed over to the health sector for the COVID-19 test. As a reminder, Article 260 of Cameroon's Penal Code.
The director of the hospital, Professor Mendimi Nkodo Joseph Marie, discharged them today after they were tested negative. Ewane Epole saw it happen.
This is one of the persons who contracted the coronavirus, but she has recovered.
I am from Paris. When I arrived Cameroon, I was tested positive. Then later, taken to the hospital. The doctors are doing a good job. I thank them very much because I am now in good health. I also advise Cameroonians to respect government prescriptions to limit the spread of this illness.
She is among the 14 COVID-19 patients that have been receiving treatment at the Jamo Hospital in Yaoundé.
When the patients arrive in our hospital, we organize 3 teams to take care of them. The treatment was about symptomatic medicines. To headache, we have only acetaminophen that for the cough.
Director of the hospital, while discharging them this Monday after they were tested negative, advised their families not to be afraid because they are now in good health and not a threat to the society.
And as the coronavirus hits the economies of the Central African sub-region, enterprises reeling from the impact of the pandemic will enjoy a tax relief.
Main measure, which is a positive measure, was that BEAC has now increased, now enlarged the number of companies that could obtain refinancing, because prior to this, it were only public bodies and the states that were admitted to central bank refinancing. But now BEAC is ready to extend its refinancing to private companies that are credible. So all those companies must receive some form of relief.
Cameroon, like other member states of the bloc, will also be expected to ensure that subventions get to enterprises and also that SMEs and SMIs have greater access to funds.
It's very difficult to achieve a significant result unless you impose a very harsh discipline at the level of directorate of budget and commitments, so that all the expenses that are not really necessary should be shelved.
It was equally recommended that the budgetary resources of states be increased and the implementation of new fiscal measures be pushed to 2021.
Apart from health and security sectors in Cameroon, the coronavirus spread is also badly affecting the country's economy. The president of the Cameroon Employers Union, JICAM, Celestin Tawamba, has encouraged stakeholders in the sector to reorganize their work plans to favor productivity in strict respect of hygiene measures as put in place by the government of the Republic. Rosalind Forza reports on how JICAM is keeping contact with the various employers' platforms.
It is a pandemic that affects the health of individuals, but the impact of the coronavirus goes above this, as enterprises in Cameroon have begun facing the consequences after the measures put in place by the government to reduce the spread of the virus when operational. According to the president of JICAM, Celestin Tawamba, the major challenge is to make sure that an economic crisis does not add to an already existing health crisis. In a recent communique, the JICAM president calls on enterprises to ensure continuity in production in order to avoid scarcity of some products during this period. Celestin Tawamba has thus invited the producers to reorganize work in their industries while promoting partial distance work so as to ensure the sanity of workers and their salaries. He has also asked the business persons to work in solidarity and comprehension with their customers. Amongst the measures put in place by JICAM to facilitate work is the creation of a new column on the JICAM official website www.legicam.cm known as COVID-19 to welcome the preoccupations of enterprises, ensure the follow-up of the crisis on their activity, declare administrative decisions, as well as accompany the enterprises throughout the period of the pandemic. If these measures are taken into account, the president of JICAM says it will avoid a human, economic and social fall.
That's how sharp measures have been taken within the CEMAC region, championed by the heads of state of the sub-region to contain the challenges that have come with the outbreak of the coronavirus. These measures are contained in the resolutions of the third extraordinary session of the Pilot Committee of the Economic and Monetary Reforms of CEMAC. Communal contributions is indispensable to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the Central African sub-region, as Joyce Kimbi-Fowaju says in the following write-up.
With the emergence of the COVID-19, CEMAC member countries have been taking measures to ensure that the disease does not spread. In fact, ever since the advent of the sub-region, it's never been challenged by double shocks as is the case now. Apart from the dreaded and ravaging COVID-19 that is spreading by the hour in the sub-region, the region has for long been constrained by the downtrend fuel prices that has staggered most of its national budget, affecting the sub-region's economy as a whole. Budgetary constraints are also being inflicted by the ongoing fight against the COVID-19 that was never previewed, neither by any CEMAC institution nor by any of its member states. This may be aggravated by drops in customs revenue and tax collection. Regarding that, trading has been reduced. As the pandemic aggravates, CEMAC states and the region as a whole needs to sit up to ensure that the prophecy of the United Nations predicting a massive loss of life within the sub-region, if care is not taken, does not happen. Certainly the sub-region and its heads of state are taking the care to support the effect of this crisis on state budget and completely eradicate the noisome pestilence from the region. It's called also to take care to contain damages that the outbreak of the virus has caused on the intra-trade within the sub-region and macroeconomic and financial budget. The 20 recommendations hashed in Congo is a pointer to the fact that heads of state of the CEMAC zone have been proactive and resolute to spare their population and economies from the stings of this virus.
And the west region of Cameroon now has 5 confirmed coronavirus cases, with the 2 additional cases tested positive yesterday. One of the new cases is a medical staff of the Lafayette Health Center in the Bafoussam 2 subdivision. The medical staff contacted the virus from an infected patient admitted in the health unit. We have details with Chancellor Nanze from CRTV West.
The Lafayette Health Center will not be open to the public till after 14 days. The gate has been shut. Every nook and cranny of the health unit disinfected, and the personnel as well as the patients that were admitted there put in isolation for 2 weeks.
We have to take sample for all personnel. Every personnel must know the status, if it is positive or negative concerning this COVID-19. For patients who are here in the hospital now, those patients first, we will take their sample now and send to Saint Pasteur to Yaoundé to know their status. After that, we will put a minimum team to follow them, to take care of them. So we have every day a team of 2 or 3 persons who will take care of them.
To avoid a repeat of such a situation in the future, measures have been taken to protect health workers.
We have called all district medical officers to give them the instruction and to learn them how to protect their personnel in the health facilities.
Personnel from the health districts of the West region have been equipped to be able to recognize suspected cases and refer them to the Bafoussam Regional Hospital.
Close to 30,000 new cases of the coronavirus have been recorded across the globe, with over 2,000 deaths within 24 hours. France has not witnessed any new cases at the time of this newscast. Our reporter Gerald Nanji is here with an update on the countries that are most hit by the coronavirus worldwide.
As the world continues to launch a ceaseless fight against the common enemy, the coronavirus, so too does the figures changing by seconds. At press time, a total of 28,898 new cases had emerged, with plus 2,143 total deaths recorded. Only today, 812 new cases have been confirmed in Italy, with 14,620 cases recovered. Spain, with a total of 85,195 cases, has witnessed 537 new deaths within 24 hours. In the United States of America, there are 31 new confirmed deaths, with 4,574 recovered cases. Germany had recorded 560 deaths in total, with 19 new deaths within 24 hours. Some good news coming from France, as no new case has been recorded today. However, they have a total case of 40,174, with 7,202 recovered cases. China, the hub of the coronavirus, continued to witness a total of 81,470 cases, with 3,304 total deaths, plus new 4 deaths today. Let's navigate to Africa, where it has been discovered that the North African countries are the worst hit. Egypt, with 609 cases, has recorded 40 deaths this far. Morocco has 516 total cases, with 29 deaths plus 3 new deaths today. And let's put the cap on this edition of COVID-19 updates in Burkina Faso, where there has been a total of 222 cases, with 12 deaths minus 0 new deaths.
And you're watching the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are broadcasting live from Yaoundé. Road projects in Cameroon benefited the most from funds generated by government through the financial market. It's 10 years today since the state began securing resources through treasury bonds, and thanks to them, a number of major infrastructural works have been seeing the light of day in the country. Just how instrumental have public funds been in developing the road network in Cameroon? Crise Takang tells us in this report.
The second bridge over the River Wuri, more than 3,000 jobs created during the construction of the 5-kilometer stretch. 19.6 billion Cfa francs went into the project, funds raised through public securities. Operational, it is among the many road works the state has been able to achieve thanks to treasury bonds.
We have been in the market now since 2010. You have the entrance, the east and the west entrance into Douala, the east entrance into Yaoundé, the construction of the second access road to Bamenda, the construction of the Kumba-Manfé route.
Tarring, construction or rehabilitation of stretches. In 10 years, more than 400 billion Cfa francs of public funds went into the execution of road infrastructure in different regions of the country. Work on more than 3,000 kilometers of roads created close to 65,000 jobs. The resources were also instrumental in opening up agricultural basins and connecting national, regional and council roads. Structural and non-structural networks were also included, with more than a dozen projects underway or already completed.
It is a nice project, and in times to come, too, will be a very beautiful town.
The road from Bachenga to Ntwi is a very, very perfect and welcome project.
The road sector has been the greatest beneficiary of funds raised through public securities. With more stretches to work on, though, officials confess that more investments are on the way.
And news from the Parliament now. The Committee on Foreign Affairs of the National Assembly has been examining the bill to ratify the revised treaty establishing the Economic Community of Central African States. The bill was scrutinized alongside that which authorizes the President of the Republic to proceed with Cameroon's accession to the International Convention to Control and Manage Ship Ballast Waters and Sediments. Kmer reports that the Inter-African Conference on Social Security was also discussed today by the committee members. Esther?
The bill to authorize the President of the Republic to ratify the revised treaty establishing the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, signed in Libreville, Gabon last December 18, was the first to be scrutinized by the Committee on Foreign Affairs, chaired by Honorable Bangmi Emmanuel, with member states expected to ratify the treaty within 6 months of its adoption. Government expounded on the essence of the institutional reform.
ECAS is going to have an adapted judicial legislative tool and a new framework for its activities. We'll have definitely a commission, and we'll have a commissioner in charge of 5 sectoral areas which all fall in line with our global goal.
In relation to the International Convention for the Control and Management of Ships' Ballast Water and Sediments, Transport Minister Jean-Ernest Massenangale Bibehe reiterated that the instrument is devoted to the protection of the marine environments from non-oil pollution. The Minister of Labour and Social Security, Gregoire Owona, on his part, defending the revised treaty of the Inter-African Conference on Social Security, spelled out defined goals which streamline the functioning of social security systems.
We have to be in accordance of all this country to reinforce CNPS capacity to continue in the process of social security in Cameroon.
With an executive secretariat instituted, it will ensure that Cameroon's National Social Insurance Fund meets international standards.
The 9 persons to lead the various committees of the Senate have been elected to complete the internal organs of the upper chambers. They were elected today during a plenary sitting to complete the setting up of the organs of the Senate for the 2020 legislative year, making the House apt to receive and deliberate on bills. Christian Cheatam was at the Senate.
The 9 committees of the Senate will function with the same leadership as during the last legislative year. The election of the executive organs of the committees today confirmed the 9 phases of last year at the head of the different commissions. Siegfried David Etame Masuma retains his position as head of the Constitutional Laws Committee, while Esomba Tsungi will head the Budget and Finance Committee. Fon Dogayonga continues as head of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate, while Bel-Luc Rene will lead the Defense and Security Committee. As for Thomas Thobo Eyum, he will look after the Economic Affairs Committee, just as Rene Zengele caters for the Education and Professional Training Committee. The Social and Cultural Affairs Committee has at its head Senator Vanigansen Mushigal. Bubakari Usmanu continues catering for the Committee on Production and Exchange, while Jafaru Muhammadu will look after the Resolutions and Petitions Committee. The setting up of the 9 committees at the Senate today was preceded by a meeting of the Chairman's Conference, which Senate President Marcel Nyat Njifenji presided. With the setting up of the 9 committees complete, the Senate now has all the organs required to carry out its primary function of examining bills channeled to the National Assembly.
Tanyitiku Enoachuabaye is the pioneer director general of the recently created National School of Local Administration based in Buea in the southwest region of Cameroon. He will be accompanied in the discharge of his duty by an equally pioneering deputy director general, Lidwin Ongolo Nyanginda, all of them appointed by presidential decree. Get to know the 2 administrators in the following profile as painted for you by Luma Slim Davis.
Here comes the first ever Director General of the National School of Local Administration, Tanyitiku Enoachuabaye, a law graduate of the Buea University who minored in political science.
I have worked for quite some time on matters of decentralization. I have an idea of the problems of the sector, the imperatives maybe that led to the creation of the school. I have started projecting myself to what it may take and what it will take to get this institution off the ground. I have started some serious reflection.
The senior administrative officer who graduated from ENAM in 2003 is expected to play a key role in the decentralization process.
The decentralization process, first of all, is a constitutional option, and a constitutional option that has been transformed into policy by the head of state, being implemented by the government. We have no option but to succeed.
After serving for 18 years at the Prime Minister's office, the new boss of NASLA is set for challenges. To work alongside as Deputy Director General is Lidwin Ongolo Nyanginda, a senior administrative officer in her 40s, who attended the Douala University and later the School of Administration and Magistracy, ENAM.
I know that I have to ensure the professional training of our local administration. We have to put in place the organization, the organogram, recruit the personnel. After that, the curricula of our human resource for the local authorities.
Lidwin Ongolo Nyanginda held several posts of responsibility in various administrative units before her new appointments.
And that's where we'll leave it for this evening. But before we go, a recap of our top stories. The Cameroon government readjusts her fight-back strategy for the coronavirus as the number of cases in the country have now hit 142. We're sorry that we could not get the Secretary General in the Ministry of Public Health, as announced earlier, for reasons beyond our control. And leaders of the Central African Economic and Monetary Community close up ranks to slow the pace of the coronavirus that is making dangerous inroads into the sub-region. And the newly created National School of Local Administration, NASLA, now has its pioneer management team, and you discovered their faces and their profiles in this edition. That's it for the 7:30 news. Thanks for the privilege of your company. We'll be back again tomorrow. Good night.
Le coronavirus est une réalité mondiale et donc ennemi public numéro 1 au Cameroun. La CRTV accompagne le gouvernement pour en limiter la propagation et s'aligne sur les recommandations officielles. Évitez au maximum les échanges de mains, les accolades et les embrassades. Se laver les mains avec une solution antiseptique ou avec de l'eau courante et du savon en insistant sur les espaces entre les doigts. Veillez à couper les ongles à ras.
Il faut éviter au maximum de porter ses mains vers la base, c'est-à-dire se frotter les yeux, le nez, la bouche. Il faut garder une certaine distance de sécurité qui est de 2 mètres au moins. À chaque fois qu'il y a rassemblement, c'est des milieux qui servent de plateforme de transmission.
Jetez les mouchoirs usagés dans des bacs à ordures fermés. Veillez à respecter les consignes de sécurité générale édictées par le personnel de santé. En quittant les lieux de service, se laver les mains avec une solution antiseptique ou avec de l'eau courante et du savon et faire pareil en arrivant à la maison.
Décaler toutes les émissions dans toute la mesure du possible. Si vous deviez même les suspendre momentanément, il vaut mieux les suspendre.
De 15-10 qu'il faut appeler dès qu'on a une suspicion de contamination au Covid-19. Vous pouvez paraître un peu drastique comme mesure, mais à l'allure où vont les choses, il vaut mieux prendre précaution.
CRTV, au cœur de la nation.
Time, Stacy. I thought I told you that time is the one thing we do not have on our side.
What you're doing right now is not right. You can't publish the story.
Okay, let's not talk out here.
We will talk out here.
Patricia?
You are ruining my life.
No, of course not. Come on, he's just staying around for a bit.
This could blow up in your face.
It won't.
It might.
It won't. Relax, will you?
You don't even know what she's capable of.
Why do you have to always be so angry?
So as much as I enjoy pissing you off all the time, today I'm not here particularly for that.